Are you looking for some free science fiction and fantasy to get you through this weekend? We've got them. And today's books are all about romantic fantasy. We have fae, witches, and count them, two retellings of the King Arthur legend. But before we get to that, welcome back, everybody, to the MetaStellar YouTube channel. I'm the editor here at MetaStellar. My name is Maria KOROLOV, and I want to thank another editor at MetaStellar, E.S. Foster, for helping out today with the reviews, and she is here with us today. Hi, Emma.
Hi.
Now, let's skip over the boring administrative stuff that you've already heard before if you're a regular on this channel and get straight to these books. And we're going to start with book 5 on today's list, and I'm going to count down to number 1. And let's make that a little bit bigger so you guys can see it. Lunaria by Kara Douglas is the first of 2 books in the Unraveled Fate, a romantic fantasy series. The other book is $3, and it is in Kindle Unlimited. This is the author's first time on our list. So Kindle Unlimited is where you pay $12 a month and you read all the books you want, as long as you don't mind them all being part of the Amazon system. And Emma read this for us. Emma, what did you think of this book?
Yeah, so definitely getting into it, this one was different. It focuses on Amira. She's a daughter of a royal merchant to the king, and she spends most of her days in the regiment training camps outside the city. It's not immediately clear why her father is part of these camps, but I still think it's a pretty cool setting, and it was very like dark and gritty for fantasy. So I was interested in getting into this. She kind of acts like a servant because she sort of fetches and carries for her father's business, and her routines are the same every single day. She doesn't have much variety. So, like, for example, in chapter 1, she goes to the market. Her father sends a guard to keep watch for her. Like, if she finds any opportunity to escape or get out of line, she won't be able to. And as a merchant's daughter, the villagers, they either pity her or they fear her. It's not much in between. So she kind of has it rough because she doesn't have any personal freedom. So Amira returns to camp. She spots like the young recruits from the regiment, and she wishes she could train like that. She just gets some training to defend herself with her friend Opal, but for the most part, she just lives this really boring life. Her friend Opal, however, does insist that finding a husband is the perfect way to escape their old routines because they'll finally get to leave the camp. But through it all, Amanda kind of loses hope that things are going to change. But then suddenly, something amazing starts to happen. The king unexpectedly announces that every nobleman and woman is invited to the court for this huge, like, matchmaking type of event. So there's finally a chance for Amira to have some kind of adventure in her life. But her father's more concerned about status. So Amira is still under his control. She needs to figure out how to survive this new political intrigue in this court because things aren't what they seem, of course. And it turns out that the presence of magic might also make a reappearance after hundreds of years. So I will say when I was reading this book was very slow. I was like 4 chapters in and I was thinking, okay, when is the action going to pick up, you know? So a lot of it was a lot of like Amir's everyday life, and besides that, nothing really happened to advance the plot other than the king's announcement, and even that came a little bit later. But I liked Amira as a character, especially when she challenged the soldiers to a sparring match just out of pure spite, because just because she wanted to. So I don't think I'll continue with this book because of its pace, but I really enjoyed seeing Amira like in those few chapters.
All right, thanks. And now we go on to book number 4 on today's list, Court of Tricksters by S.L. Prater, the first of 5 books in the Fae Tricksters, a romantic fantasy series. The other books are $5 each, and they are all in Kindle Unlimited. And I read this one. And so, like, first of all, a disclaimer, I do not like romantic books, and I don't like romance. I don't like romantasy, and I prefer my like fantasy more epic and action-packed than, soft and squishy and loving because I have a cold, cold heart. But I love the cover on this book, and once I started reading it, I really got into it. So Rain is in the woods with her demon familiar, a shape-shifting demon, who's now in the form of a tiny fluffy cat. And the other animals in the forest are staying away from her because they instinctively fear witches, and she's a fae and a witch. And she's in the woods to meet a mysterious man. She's been seeing him for nearly a month, even though she doesn't even know his name. She's hardly spoken to him. She's been living in the woods alone for far too long and is really uncomfortable around guys. But she's been bringing him gifts, and he's brought her gifts as well. Sweets, flowers, little mementos. It's so sweet. But tonight she senses the stress of a woman she knows, a tavern owner who's in trouble. So she turns around, and instead of going to meet the guy, she goes to help the woman. When she gets to the tavern owner explains why she called for her. There's a customer who's part dragon and part fae who refuses to leave and is keeping other customers away and causing trouble. And Rain uses her magic and a demon weapon to resolve the situation. And then she goes upstairs where another customer is causing trouble, and Rain throws this guy out the window. Apparently, she used to be a fae warrior and she's got some skills. And she's downstairs making sure everyone's okay when there's hubbub outside. So there's a crowd gathering outside a court, a coach that's stopped in front of the tavern, and a guy gets out, and it's her mystery man, and he's all dressed up. Like, he's really dressed up, like royalty dressed up. And the tavern owner tells Rain who this is. It's the Fae Duke of Night. She foolishly set her sights on the most unobtainable man in the area, and she feels like a complete idiot. Then she wonders why the Duke was going around the woods in the middle of the night visiting her in secret. What's up with that? So I really, really like Rain. I love her familiar. I love the setting. I love her relationship with the local mortal humans. And the setup is a little hokey, like, why is she meeting this guy and she's afraid to talk to him? But other than that, I really, really like her. And then in the next chapter, we switch to the Duke's point of view, which, of course, it's a romantasy, so they're going to get together. And it turns out that he's obsessed with her and is a little bit worried that she didn't meet him tonight. And she thinks that she is a solution to a war that's looming between two fae courts. Apparently, the rulers of these two warring courts each want the Duke to pick their side in the conflict and to marry a woman they choose for him and to sire a brood of future mages. And he has his own plans, and the witch is involved in there somehow. So his coach has come to a stop because there's a half-naked guy sprawled on the street, the one Rain threw out the window. So the Duke gets out of the coach, sees that the half-naked guy is drunk, goes into the tavern, and he senses that Rain is there, so he demands to see her, but she's in hiding. She is magically cloaked. He can still sense that she's there somewhere. So, like I said, I hate the premise. It's really cliche. But I do love the characters. I love the setting. And I am a big fan of other cliche premises. They're my favorite genre. So I might stick with the book this weekend because I really enjoyed what I've read of it so far. Next, we have Crown of Earth and Sky by Emberly Ash, the first of 4 books in the Secrets of the Fairy Crown series, which is a retelling of the King Arthur legend. The other books are $6 each, and they are all in Kindle Unlimited, but the last book isn't out yet. It's scheduled to be published in November, and you can pre-order it. And this is just one of the 2 King Arthur books on our list. And Emma read this for us, or she read the beginning of it for us. Emma, what did you think of this book?
Yeah, so I was really excited about King Arthur retelling with elemental magic because it immediately opens with like Prince Arthur, not yet king, he has fire powers, and I thought this is going to be the most amazing premise ever. So, in this world, the soon-to-be King Arthur and all of his knights of the Round Table, they have different names in this book, but it's still Arthur. They all have elemental magic. And protecting non-magic users is kind of everyone's top priority in this court, because it's a fairy court and these are the types of things that they do in this world to protect what they call terrestrials. So Arthur's mysterious twin sister Veka is also there. And in the beginning, she and Arthur are continuing their sparring and everything. Eventually turns out that Veka doesn't actually have any powers, and she learned long ago that she needed to protect herself because being in a fairy court with all these elemental magic users, she doesn't really fit in anywhere, and she's been locked away since she's not heir to the throne or anything. So she's just kind of doing her best to survive, and she wants to stick up for herself a little bit. It's almost time for this royal court to convene for Arthur's marriage to one of the non-fairies, because that is going to unite both the fairy and the non-fairy kingdoms. It's also supposed to please the ancient, what's called ancestors, which is kind of like gods, except they're actual fairies that all the characters, including Veka, is descended from. Veka isn't exactly too thrilled about it. It's not really clear if she doesn't have powers or not, but we never see them use it. So we never see her use it. So it might be that she's just forced to join because she's the crown princess and she's not very happy about it. She doesn't see any point in bringing up all the formalities. She just thinks that both kingdoms are doomed to fight forever no matter what happens. But thankfully, her brother is going to become king, so she doesn't have to worry about any of that. Unfortunately, during the celebration, Vega sees this mysterious light, but it disappears before she can figure out what it is as it floats about the room. But moments later, the lights go out, chaos erupts, and Vega is dragged away for her own safety. But this is not before she hears the news that her brother has been assassinated. So I thought, okay, so you gave King Arthur fire powers and then you killed him off in the first chapter. That is even more exciting. So now she's meant to become Queen of Elemental Fae, but Vega knows that something is up with this court. All this political stuff is really confusing to her, but she knows that there's deception in there somewhere, and she definitely feels like war is brewing. So things only also get worse when her betrothed shows up because, there's got to be some romance thrown in there, but it starts off as conflict. So right off the bat, like I was saying, I thought this was a cool idea. And I also thought it was really interesting that they decided to kill King Arthur off in like the first chapter, because that immediately raised the whole stakes for all the stakes for me. And I also like Vecna as a character. She's very resourceful and witty. And it was fun getting into her head because she basically just complained about all of the characters, but for good reason. So I think I might actually stick with this series.
All right, let's go on to book number 2 on today's list, The Night Market by Jesikah Sundin. Let's make that a little bigger. There you go. This is a standalone novel in the Bound by Ravens, which is a romantasy universe. The other novel in this universe is $3, but it is in Kindle Unlimited. And the author has been on this list before. We've already reviewed the other book in the series, Bound by Ravens, which was on our Free Friday list last September. So I read the beginning of this book, and it's about Philena, who is stuck in a small overheated tent telling fortunes to strangers while baking to death in layers of satin, lace, and corsetry. Even her red fox familiar is annoyed. She's trapped in this fake caravan because she's been their property ever since she was 14 when they discovered her family's secret. And the secret is that the women in her family are seers. They can't control their magic, and she can't see her own future. But also she doesn't mind being owned by the Fae too much, because the alternative is that she'd be owned by her oldest male relative, and she'd rather die than see that happen. Her father had already sold her into marriage, and her mother, after seeing a vision, sent her and her brother away to find safety. Because she was sold off to this creepy old dude, and he was going to come take her when she turned 15. So she escaped in the nick of time. So as the book opens, handsome Faye comes in for a reading, and he brings her some tasty dessert instead of money as payment. And she's known him for years and seems to have a crush on him. But he only wants to know one thing: does his mate love him back? And she sees a vision, but instead of telling him what she sees, she makes jokes. And in her vision, she does see that there's a woman who will be the Fae's true mate but she can't see the woman's face. But she knows that they're going to meet at a particular location and they're going to face a whole bunch of challenges. And I'm guessing that Philena herself is going to be this true mate. Otherwise, she wouldn't be the protagonist of the book. But of course, she can't be with the Fae because she's only human and he's a Fae, and they're not supposed to get together. Then in chapter 3, we switch to the Fae's point of view, and I was right. Since it's his point of view, he gets chapters to himself. He must be the male lead, then they're gonna get together. And we discover that he also has a crush. He has a crush on Philena. In fact, he knows that she is his true mate and that the gods have decided that they're going to be together, but he is forbidden from marrying outside his kind. So that's the premise, and romance is definitely the heart of the story. So as far as I've read, I haven't seen any kind of action plot happening yet. But despite that, I do like Philena very much. I like her relationships with the people around her. I like her sense of humor. I like her spunk. The guy's okay too. And I don't like romance, but the book itself is very fun and readable, and I love the setting, so I might stick with it this weekend. Before I go to book number 1 on today's list, I want to thank our Patreon supporters. Here they go. You guys are awesome. We recently added a $1 tier. So if you'd like to support us on Patreon, even $1 helps. And all the money goes to pay for original fiction. It goes directly to the authors. We don't keep any of it. We are all volunteer. So if you want to support original science fiction and fantasy, please support us. And we have just been monetized. So you should be able to join our channel at some point. And I don't know how that works yet or anything else because this just happened, but that is very, very exciting. And we're going to be working on setting all that up. All right, now let's go on to book number 1 on today's list, Queen of Roses by Briar Boleyn. The first of 4 books in the Blood of a Fae Romantasy series. The other books are $6 each, but they're all in Kindle Unlimited. It's the author's first time on our Free Friday list. And this is another King author retelling. What are the odds? So I still don't like romance, since the last book review, minutes ago, seconds ago. And this is another fantasy romance. But I'm keeping my mind open. So we first meet Morgan, our protagonist, when she's hiding under her mother's bed, reading a book about magical creatures. She's 5 years old, and it's her favorite spot in a castle. Then she sees her mean alcoholic father beat her mother to death, and he claims that she tricked him into a Fae marriage because he thinks that her mother is part Fae. So that's kind of a creepy beginning. She is 5 years old, and he doesn't see that she's there. And then in the next chapter, we fast forward 15 years until she's 20. She's all grown up, and she's in training to be a knight. And there are fewer female knights than there used to be, thanks to the fact that her evil brother is now ruler of the kingdom. And her best friend is also trained to become a knight, and she wants Morgan to go out to a tavern with her. And the best friend is gay. She has her eyes on a barmaid. Morgan prefers men, and the friend hopes to find someone for her at the bar. When the two of them walk outside, they bump into a stranger who's tall with broad shoulders and a muscular frame. He's rude to Morgan. She doesn't know who he is, and he clearly doesn't recognize her as the king's sister, and she later learns that he's a new recruit. Then her friends go off to the tavern without her. Morgan heads to the throne room where something is happening. The king is about to judge the fate of a captive half-Fae boy who was arrested for stealing an apple. The king accuses the boy of being a spy, and nobody dares to disagree with him. The punishment for theft is the loss of a hand, which seems a little extreme for an apple. But the punishment for being a spy is death. And the only one who disagrees with this is the king's high priestess, who suggests that the boy might have some abilities that would make him a good acolyte for her. But the king orders his execution anyway, and the boy is killed right there in front of everybody. So that's the premise. An evil king, there's prejudice against those with Fey blood. Morgan herself has some Fey ancestry. But that's not all. So the name of the high priestess, Marilyn. Marilyn is in Marilyn the Wizard from King Arthur's court, but Marilyn is now a woman. The evil brother who's the king, King Arthur. Morgan's best friend's name, Lancelot, again gender swapped. So very different point of view for the King Arthur story. So there is Fae there, just like in the original King Arthur legend, but the themes are completely different. The plot looks like it's going to be totally different, and I like it very much. The story is strong. It starts right into the middle of all this tense stuff happening. The premise is fascinating. The characters are compelling. The writing is extremely readable. I mean, that's always the case for the books on the top of the Free Friday list, because, I mean, there's a reason that the books are bestsellers. But this particular author is also a USA Today bestselling author, and I could certainly see why. And I will definitely be sticking with this book this weekend. So those were the books on today's Free Friday list, or the top 5 books. If you want to make sure to get these videos every Friday, you can subscribe to our channel. And if you want to get them in your inbox by email, we also have a newsletter you can subscribe to, and the links are in the description box below. Okay, so thanks everybody. We'll see you next Friday. And if you guys don't want to miss, if you guys don't want to leave our channel just yet, we're serializing the vampire novel Gods and Monsters by award-winning artist and author E.E. King. Our interview with the author is here, and the recording of the author reading her first installment is here. We're now up to installment 17 on both our website and on this channel. Subscribe if you don't want to miss an episode. Thanks, everybody.